All right, well, g'day there. Richard Musgrave-Evans here again, and welcome back. Now today, back down the river, fantastic stuff. Got a beautiful gum tree subject today. Nice summer day. Got a Belgian linen with white primer on it, buckets of oil paint, and I've just taped off across here just to get my water line across there where I want it. Nice and level, so as I'm painting the picture, things don't get crooked later on. That'll come off almost immediately. All right, now what we'll do is, as usual, we'll start off with the biggest differences between what we've got here and what we've got there. I'll probably stick the darks in first, get a little bit of draftsmanship, and then we'll get into it. All right. Now, I'll just go a little bit of, what I've got here is Viridian Green, Magenta. I've got a couple of blues. I've got Phthalo Blue and I've got beautiful Ultramarine Blue. Burnt Sienna, Alizarin Crimson, a nice red, Yellow Ochre, Titanium White, and a little bit of Cad Orange and Cad Yellow just for a few highlights. All right, so now what I'll do is using a bit of white, maybe a bit of Phthalo Blue to just block in some of these lines. Now, that'll be my water line. Okay, so the bank, I'll feel my way along here. The bank will be there somewhere. Don't have to be too exact with that, but I do want that water line level. Okay, now I've decided that the gum will be here. I can go like so. Just got to feel our way. That can be the edge of the branch there, that one coming out towards us. Got this nice one jutting here. That'll end up coming into the picture like so. A bit more Phthalo Blue and white. Now there'll be a nice nuggety branch just coming out the side here as it bends back on itself. Beautiful. And like so. The lines don't need to be too exact, I'm just feeling my way at the moment, just getting a pleasing composition. Alright, now, what do we got here? The tree will come to about there. Maybe a bit more blue. That can be that way. Bit of a lean that way to send your eye this way in the picture. Just feeling my way here with a little bit of foliage on the ridge top there. I might go a bit of Viridian Green and Burnt Sienna while I'm here. Twang a Yellow Ochre as well. Just getting closer to the colour that I want. A bit more Yellow Ochre in the mix. Just establishing the edge of the bank here. That's that sort of colour. Right, so that tape can come off, it's done its job. Don't want to wear it. Alright, so now I'll stand back and just see how the balance is going on the picture, but I feel like things are going alright. Alright, well that seems to be pretty good. Now I'll go for some darks. Just grab a little bit of paper towel, keep the knife nice and clean, get rid of the white that's on the knife at the moment. What are these little birds up to? They're having a bit of fun, aren't they? Alright, some darks. So we'll go for Alizarin Crimson and Viridian Green. I'll have to get some more out. I've just used the leftovers from last night when I painted that little Plein air on site. Gonna have to get a little bit more of those ones. Took them off the other palette. I've got a little other palette sitting over there, and that was a little bit of paint I had left. So, alright, some darkest darks. What I'll do is I'm going to get it now. I'm going to get the red. I really need that red. Alizarin Crimson. I like to put some underpaint. I like to use that as an underpaint. Because sometimes I pull back to that red and it gives this beautiful, because it's a transparent colour, it gives this beautiful transparency, translucency that you can see through with the white of the canvas shining through the red. Establish some darks. Yeah. Where's that going to come to? There, yeah. Just feeling my way. Bit more green, bit more red. Maybe a little bit of ultramarine blue thrown in here. I can see a shadow starting to form. Now I'm going for some burnt sienna. Can't help myself, I'm just getting straight into it now. Burnt sienna and yellow ochre. It's going to be the shadow of that tree. It's got a nice warm quality to it. That's about right. Okay, I'll work with a few magentas, just changing tack a little bit. Ultramarine blue, excuse me, magentas. Just want to establish a few shadows on the other side, just go a little bit more neutral than that. A bit more white. Bit more white to lighten the value, so more magenta, more blue. Just establishing some of the shadow values on the bank on the other side. Now, it's just set back a little bit, so they're not quite as dark as what the foreground is. Just set back a little bit of three-dimensional recession there. Atmospheric. Few darks on the bank. Just putting a few in like that because there's a few dead branches and whatever kicking around on the actual riverbank itself. Ultramarine, magenta. And put those shadows in now. Very easy later on to just paint the lights over them, but at the same time you've got enough there to leave for little highlights. Okay. Right, now normally I put the darkest darks in the foliage too. I might just try putting the sky in around it first, because sometimes when you're blending those darks later with the sky, you're trying to blend the sky, those darks get mixed up and then you make all sorts of mud. You don't want that. So we'll work with putting the foliage in a minute. Okay, we'll go for white. What's the horizon today? There's a bit of a... We'll go phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. The ultramarine blue will knock the phthalo back a bit. And magenta. Just want a little bit of a grey band on the horizon, not too much. And then I'll get into some ochres. What's this? Right, a bit more magenta. Bit of that in. Try not to touch those darks too much. What we got there? Yep. I can go in it. Alright, now what I'll do is I'll go to the next layer of sky, which will be white, yellow ochre, bit of phthalo blue. Phthalo blue's strong, so like I said, I'll neutralise it with the ultramarine. It just knocks the edge off that phthalo because it's a very dominating colour. But that yellow ochre has sent it ever so slightly green. Let me just have a look what we got. A bit more blue. A little bit more ultramarine blue. I'm just trying to get the right value before I start, and colour, before I start getting too carried away. That's not too bad. That can be there. That'll come around there. Be there like that. There's going to be plenty of foliage, we've got to watch out for that, right? Let me just stand back and have a look, eh? Alright, what I am going to do is change tack and go back to the yellow ochre and burnt sienna, a little bit of white. Some beautiful, I'm going to put these trunks, stick the trunks in. A bit more white. Neutralise that a little bit with a little bit of the magentas, so it's not quite as intense. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Bit of magenta to knock it back. I can be there like that. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna, magenta. Not too much white, we want to keep it a fairly dark value. Bit of ultramarine blue to knock the chromatic intensity down. More magenta. Alright, so that trunk will be here. It's a little bit green dominant. I'll just throw a bit of red in. Alright. That trunk will be there today. Yeah, nice. There'll be one here. That'll come down to there. This one's a bit lower. That one will live there, look at that. A little bit out there. And this way. Now we've got a major trunk up here. There's a whole arrangement of trunks going all different ways here, so just put the ones you want in, I guess. Just give the general feel of what you're after here. Like that. It's going all right. Okay, so now let's go for some burnt sienna, fruity and green, yellow ochre. I'm going to paint the lovely foliage on the trees now, the shadow version that is. Maybe a bit of ultramarine blue just to knock it back a little. What do we got here? A little bit more blue in the mix. Just lightly feeling those. There's actually a lot of foliage on this tree. It's looking pretty healthy. Pretty happy with itself by the looks of it. Stick that foliage on now. Yeah. Very good. All right, white, ultramarine, a little bit of phthalo. Like I said, that phthalo's strong, that ultramarine's great for knocking it back, make it more of a neutral. This is a little bit less white as it goes up. A bit more magenta to knock the intensity back to. Where are we going to be? That's about that height. Slightly put bits in here and there, filling in the negative spaces. A little bit just here and there. Just like patchworks here. I'm not trying not to touch too much. I'll blend that later, just putting it on for now. Now let's just go a bit more of that yellow ochre and lighter, slightly lighter. With a bit more white and yellow ochres. Ultramarine blue and white, just getting the blend right so I get a nice subtle layering as it goes up. Bit more white. Oh, jeepers. Here we go, it's all starting to happen. Ultramarine blue and white. Bit more ultramarine blue. Phthalo. Just getting the mixture right so we get a beautiful blend on the way as it goes up. They're all sitting next to each other at the moment, but I will blend them soon. To some extent. Here we go. Nice. Let me have a look. All right, going good. I'll go slightly darker and upper level now, so more ultramarine, less of the white, plenty of the ultramarine. It's a beautiful colour. Just a twang of phthalo, just to intensify it a bit so it blends. Doesn't just look at it like it's a stranger, they actually go together. Yeah, not bad. Don't you love the sound of the bird life that we get while you're painting? All right, go up a level. Slightly darker, a bit more magenta with the ultramarine. Get a real deep blue. Darker value, slightly more of a red dominant. A bit more white to lighten that value. What have we got here? That is dark. A bit more phthalo because it went a little bit too much magenta-ish. I do want it to be magenta dominant, but not so it doesn't match. That's nice and deep and dark. It'll be great for accenting the foliage against it. It's got the occasional fly kicking around. They're not too bad at the moment, which is good. Nice and neat on the edges. Trying not to touch that foliage too much. A bit more phthalo and white. A bit more white. Mix, 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 mix. That's great. Such a deep colour for accenting midday summer Australian sunlight with that deep blue sky. The Australian impressionists like Tom Roberts, Arthur Streeton used to love that really deep blue midday sky. I must say I do too. Now I'm not, you can see I've left a lot of white marks because I don't want to smudge it just yet, but I'll pull all that together soon. Alright, well there you go. Home sweet home. Lovely setup. What we've got is, once you've rolled it up like that, the dome swag, you've got the mozzie net, and you've got absolute complete protection in there from mosquitoes, spiders, you name it. Even the old Joe Blake, the snake, he can't get in either, so I'll leave that one for now. Now I'll get stuck into a little bit of this, what is it, yellow ochre, pretty and green, burnt sienna. Use a bit of that sky blue in the mix, a bit more yellow ochre. Trying to get some of the reflections now in the water themselves. It'll be just a bit more yellow ochre, I reckon, today. A bit more white. Just got to get the right blend of what the water is today. There's plenty of yellow ochre. And a little bit more burnt sienna too, to warm her up a tad. Just put that on nicely. Don't want to muck around. Plenty to do today, plenty to do. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre, a bit more white. Burnt sienna and yellow ochre. There'll be a bit of foliage here, so we'll go all the way. You know, yeah, it's gone all the way up. There's a bit of wind on the water. Depends how much reflection you get on the waters by how much wind you're going to have on the surface. Alright, well here we are, nice morning. Beautiful stuff out here. Just got a bit of breakfast on the go. Got a cuppa on the brew, and we just come down and have a look. See if I can lift this lid. It's a bit warm. And I'll grab this one. Beautiful. So we've got apples, raisins, rice, cinnamon, all cooking away. And of course the billy on the boil. Changing tack slightly, there's a few dark shadows. Magenta, ultramarine, here's some beautiful colours like that. There's this one here. A bit more magenta dominant. I can go there. There's a little bit more kicking around here. Ultramarine magenta. Pull around like that. Excuse me. Alright. I seem to be loving that, excuse me, I seem to be loving that ultramarine blue today. I'll get some more. Let's come up close and have a look at this tree. We can do a lot with this tree. I'm going to paint a fairly large painting of it. When you get up close, you'll see it's got a real size to it. A lot of character. It's been around for who knows how long, so just work out what angle we're going to paint it from. I reckon I'll come over this way because we've got to deal with what the sun's doing. And the sun's rising here and it's going to go around this way. And when I'm painting from this side of my trailer, I like to be in shadow. I don't like the direct sun shining on it. So I think if I'm set up here, the sun's going to go around, I'll be in shadow. It's a nice composition from looking from this angle too. So I reckon we're pretty right from here. It's probably about start about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Let me work this out, maybe even 8:30. Before the sun gets too high, because at the moment we're getting nice light casting and lighting the side of the tree, put a few highlights. as it gets higher, the trunk may go into shadow because the branches and the foliage may shadow itself. So keeping the sun fairly low may be a good thing. So straight after breakfast, I'll set up the whole trailer here and I reckon I'll get into it. In the cartridge, that is. Good stuff. I'll rub a few of those into here, since it's slightly darker in value and gives the warm and cool contrast. A few darks in there. Dark there. Just sticking some of these darker values around because they're there, so get the tonal scale correct and then things will start to pop. A little bit more there, a little bit out there. This is the good gear. Cooked brown rice, stewed apples, big stewed raisins, blueberries and cinnamon. Absolutely beautiful. You would be amazed how good the cooked brown rice is. Such a lovely thing to have for breakfast. Got a clean knife now. We're just going to blend some of these sky colours more together so they're not staring at each other. Pull them in, little marks with the big knife to get it blending. Blend them together nicely. So you got that atmospheric haze, that sort of purple, blue, grey down low. And then it gets into those ochre colours in the sky that you get. It radiates its way up. And you get up into the ultramarines up here. Right. Something along those lines. We'll just leave it at that for now. That's getting a good blend. It's gradiated way more subtly. Just give this a quick wash. Cast iron. Not using any detergents to wash it. Doesn't need detergents. There we go, nice and clean. Just dry it out a bit and then give it a very light oil to stop it rusting. Back in the game. What a lovely morning. Just going to now use yellow ochre. Just a twang of red and green. I might use some of those sky blues. Trying to get a light value. Paint white and yellow ochre. Yellow ochre and white. Maybe just a twang of the cad colour. I just want it to be intense because this is a light tonal value of, let me just put it on and see what happens. Just lightly touching. It's the sunlight version of the foliage rather than the shadow version. Just very lightly touching. Yellow ochre, bit of cad as well, bit of white to lighten the value. Light and bright we want, full Australian sunlight. That's nice. It's very lightly touching. dragging, so you get those little dots which could look like leaves. Just feel your way around. It's going all right. Yellow ochre. And alizarin. Just about gone through the yellow ochre. Alright, we'll stop doing that because I feel like I've got a lot in there. That's pretty good. Now I want to set this foliage, I've got the shadows of that foliage there, I want to set it back into the distance. So I'll get a bit of magenta with these blues and make up a nice kind of light blue magenta-y colour. And get my yellow ochres and whatever colours that I'm using here to make a nice foliage colour. Then if I pull the magenta into it, it'll knock it back and send it back a bit. Let me just have a look how much I've knocked that back. Yeah, that has sent it back. Just takes away the chromatic saturation and sends it off into the distance. Yeah, we'll just go a little bit more magenta, hang on. White and magenta. Very light value here. Mix that into that. Now really send stuff off. Let's have a look. Let's send it back beautifully. Okay, so I want that there. Half mixing it all together. A bit more of the yellow ochre. A bit more of the magenta. Good old yellow ochre's gone. We need more of it. It's good stuff. Alrighty, what are we doing? More yellow ochre with those dusty mauvey colours that I made. More blues. I'm just knocking in these lovely grass colours here on the top of the bank too. A little bit down in there. Ultramarine, magenta, white, change tack again. Bit more shadows from stuff here. Ultramarine. Okay, now I'm just going to knock in some of the, get rid of these whites here, put the colour of the bank in. So we'll go white, yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Use a little bit of these other colours to grey it. Go for some burnt sienna again. Grab some of those mauves and shove it in, and that'll help grey it off because the soil's got a little bit of a grey colour to it. Stick that in. Where's the edge of that tree today? It's there. A bit more white, a bit more yellow ochre, a bit more burnt sienna. bit more of those magentas, greys thrown in. Lovely, a bit more yellow ochre to add a little bit more of a sun bleached colour. A bit more white, and magenta. That's it, that's a good sun colour. Get that covered. A bit more of that yellow ochre over here too, I reckon. Nice. And what I'm also noticing, there's a little bit of a salt layer too in the, we'll go white, slightest magenta. There's a little bit of a salt layer in the lower bank, you can just see it, and it looks kind of slightly more magenta purple and a lighter tonal value. Let me just put some in, let's have a look. Twang more blue than that. Bit more white. Just seems to be shining in like so. Sediment layer. It's looking good. Bit more burnt sienna. Keep on working. Burnt sienna and yellow ochre. Some of those birds are pretty intense and loud. Now, make a slightly darker value. It's down low here. Slightly grey it. It's a little bit darker in value where the soil is maybe got a bit more moisture to it. We'll just go a little bit darker on the edge here. Alright, now let's just keep on working around. White, yellow, some of those colours. Getting the reflection now. That'll be there. Comes and goes, that reflection, depending on what the wind's doing, like I said. Stick her in there. Stick her in there, pull them together a little. Little marks to bring it together. Right, now with a clean knife, just gonna have a look, pull down, wobble the knife, hang on, pull down and wobble the knife a little, blend them subtly together like so, pulling down, subtly blending them together. Wipe it clean. I'm lifting the knife up and down, kind of like bounce, 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 wiggle, 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 which is just putting ripples on the water and slowly blending them together. Going good. Now I'm noticing more of these shadows. Keep going the ultramarine, magenta. Use a alizarin. I'm running out of magenta there, so we'll go for that. Just sticking some of these darks in. I will get the magenta. Magenta is such a lovely colour that I can do nothing but use it. I have to use it. It's such a lovely colour. All right. Here we go. Magenta. just has so much life to it. Lighten the value a little. There's plenty of shadows. I'm sticking them in because there is so many of them. I'll stick the light on in a minute over the top of it. Just getting a blend of shadow. Beautiful. Yeah, something magic about just working direct from nature in a fast shorthand. Let's get this foliage in now in the foreground, yellow, white, burnt sienna. When I say foliage, I actually mean, I don't mean foliage at all, I mean the ground, the colour of the ground, but there's a little bit of debris on the ground. I'll mix a bit of other colours in to make up for that. Just get the bulk of this in. White, yellow, burnt sienna. Chunky stuff, big foreground chunky marks. Half mixed with other colours around it. Blend it so you get a softness like so. Bit more white, bit more yellow ochre. A few flies kicking around today. As the wind kicks out, I notice the flies kick in. That seems to be what's going on. I'm so protected and sheltered here though. Just working on those edges there, I can see that there's light and shadow there. Here's some real chunky style. Some white. Moving the knife around, little marks here and there. Just putting the light source on a little now. White, yellow ochre. There's a bit of light kicking here. That one's going up over that way. Your colours and tones, you're drawing direct from nature, so you're more obvious what's there and you're getting much closer to what's there. So you've got that beauty, and then you've got the speed of application. You've got to apply the paint quickly before the light changes, and that gives you that beautiful feeling like shorthand or someone's signature. Well, you're working quicker than you're intellectualising, and you get a beautiful free flow in the work. Some of the magic that you felt when you were there, the enjoyment of when you were on location, seems to show through in the plein air work. Okay, now I need some more white. Got the big tin out today, fantastic stuff. I'll just open that up. That's a 1 litre tin. Huge amount. It's great. Scooper on like so. Lid back on, you're back in the game. Alright, now I'll keep going with this white theory that I'm on at the moment. White. Here's some cad yellow highlight with that white. Okay, so I'm going to use a smaller knife. Pains me to say it, but I'm going to use a smaller knife. I need some pure whites here and some Maybe yellow ochre, just a nice warm sunlit colour. Knife on edge. Lay that in. Beautiful. There's stuff going everywhere as in foliage. So hang on, that one's there. And it comes down, it goes like so. A bit more yellow ochre and the cads. Just drawing with the knife. There's some nasty blue coming out under there. I don't want the blues, I just want the clean, warm values, not the cool ones. So we'll use the yellow ochre and the cads. Like so. A little bit of light kick in there. Some of them there. Beautiful stuff. I like to go for these cruises on the river, they're so relaxing. Before the heat of the day, you get to see a lot before any wind seems to come up. The wind seems to come up a little bit more usually as it gets a bit hotter. These mornings are quite still. Great. It's got some interesting patterns on the trunk, and I just drew them in then. You can't repeat that. That's just like half mixed paint just flicked on like that, and you've got the same pattern in the tree. You try and rework it, and you just wreck it. It's good to just leave that spontaneity like that. That's what's good about working on site. Sometimes you see things like that, and you just have to do them. It seriously works, and it's a lot easier to see what to do like that on site. I'm just sticking some cooler values in. Right, that's all going good now. I'm just going to mix up a little bit more white, yellow ochres and blues. Very light value. What I'm going to do here is just put a bit of that beautiful, which is long overdue I reckon too. Because the wind's cut out, you're seeing a lot of the blue sky now in the water. Before you couldn't, but now you can. So I'm going to put it in. Let me just have a look at that value. Change tack a little here. There's a little bit of shadow on the water from this big tree, which I haven't put in yet, so I'm going to stick it in. Phthalo blues, darker, much darker. I like to lean back. If I can, it gets the boat closer. The nose, the bow of the boat lifts up onto the land. Alrighty, let's go. Now the reason I've come here, we just pull this boat up a little so she doesn't float away. The reason I've come here is there's a beautiful big gum tree just here that I want to look at. camp area too. It's really open. Great to set up here. Big tree, lovely stuff. Certainly got plenty of firewood. Look at that. Oh, look at all the timber. Wow, beautiful location. Those big gum trees, they're just great. They produce great shelter and whatever else. Wonderful things. Alrighty. Get back in the boat, I reckon, have another paddle, but that was a bit of fun. Alright, so I've just moved the camera around. I've just had a little bit of lunch, take a quick break, and I've put the camera on the other side so you can get a better idea of what you're looking at, because you've seen this version, now you get a version for that. Right, now let's just get this knife, clean it up. Just want to pull this through, nice and soft. Wipe it absolutely clean. Just going to lightly get some really high key colours. So we've got yellow ochre, a bit of cad yellow and white, so it's very light and bright. A bit more yellow ochre. That's a high key colour. Now get some real pale green, viridian green and white. Now I've got the shadows, a lot of the shadow tones. What I'm doing is going to lightly skip this across to pick up the light source as well of the light falling. So you've got the light and shadow of the foliage. So we're slightly keyed down as we're doing the foliage back there. We've got a bit more magenta and white and blue on top of the foliage colours, which sends it back. Right, just keep working round and round. We're slowly getting there. Pretty happy with the colour combination that's going on, whatever else, so let's just keep on going. Just like this. In Australia it's very popular to have a sit on top kayak and of course the double end paddle like that. I way prefer this Canadian / American type style canoe where you just got the one paddle and you're just cruising down the river. There's just something real relaxing about it. And you can't explain it until you try it. For some reason the one paddle in the canoe, it's just magic. I think one of the things I like about the canoe is the fact that you can move around a little. When you say in a standard kayak, you really feel locked in, and I get a bit jittery. What's the word for it? I don't know, I just need to move around more. Get cabin fever. When you're in this boat, you can move around enough, so that's good. There's a nice tree. We're just cruising close to this one. So good to get away and get in on location again. It's just something real magic about painting direct from the subject. Beautiful. Get some high key cad colours. Really want to give the feeling of reflected light on the underside. Lighten that value a little. All right, well, I reckon I've got the big impression. I reckon I should leave it at that. Pretty much happy with what's going on now. I feel like I've really captured the classic old warrior gum tree in the full Australian summer sunlight with the play of light and shadow and warm and cool colour contrasts. And you can see right in the foreground here, I'm really playing with some high-key, rich sunlit colours, contrasting dramatically with the dark, cooler colours, which is reflected from the sky. So you've got the sky reflecting down, creating cool darks here, but at the same time, once the sun actually bounces off the high intensity ground and bounces back up into the shadows of the trunk, you get these lovely warm tones underneath on the underside of the trunk. With the cool light coming down, you get in the shadows of the trunk, those light coloured trunks, you get the pale blues because it's the shadow reflecting down, and on the underside it's this reflecting up. So that's how you get those warm and cool contrasts. Plus the full sunlit areas like that to really dance around in your eye. Then you can see over here in the distance, I purposely keyed it down with some magentas and that so it sets it off, so you've got this near foreground trunk activity going on. Then on the other side of the creek you've got hazed off and distance, full sunlit but distance. Love the reflections in the water, I feel like I captured that, really subtle there, nice play of light and shadow on the bank, a few trunks just to draftsmanship with the edge of the palette knife to give the illusion and feeling of detail. Enough up in here, warm and cool, spontaneous marks. On the whole, pretty happy with what's going on. Why don't we get that camera off now, come buzzing right in, you guys can have a look and see what you think. All right. That's all, folks.